and Truman uses it, the portfolio project, to qualitatively look at your experience at Truman. People, I guess people in power, if you will, and professors, everyone understands that a lot of the things you get out of your time at Truman is not necessarily the classes that you take, and they want to hear it from you, specifically the critical thinking skills you think you've garnered and things like transformative experiences. And we'll be going through those specifically. It features 6 prompts, and professors from all sorts of backgrounds will go through each and every one of these. A little bit different with COVID. I know they're going to get to it eventually, but usually they'll reply with emails to certain students that have specific material. I know that they've addressed mental health and people's letters and that sort of thing, and we're going to go through how you can get yourself heard. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, if that's okay. Whoops. Okay, where'd you go? Okay, can you enable screen sharing for me, please?
Okay. You know how I do that?
It should be the security along the bottom. It should be like next to participant security, and then enable for me to share my screen.
Enable, allow participants to, oh, okay. Did that work?
I'll try it. Yes, it did.
Okay, great.
Okay, so hopefully we can see that now.
Yep.
This is the portfolio project. It's on portfolio.truman.edu. If it's your first time logging in, this is kind of what you'll get through. This video is basically what we're going to be doing, so you won't need to click that. It's a little bit long, if I remember correctly. If you have any questions, this is our email. We'll get back to you pretty quickly. If you're wondering what the due dates are, sooner rather than later is the short answer, but the long answer is that it's due the first Friday in April or the first Friday in November, depending on when you're graduating.
This is the semester of graduation, so it's not this semester. Don't worry about that.
Okay, first Friday in November if you're graduating at the end of this. So you guys have a little bit of time, but still important to keep this in mind. You can see right here in the corner how long we've been doing it. Before that, it was on paper, and people like me had to scan stuff in. So I'm glad we've moved a little bit past that. As you'll see, though, the system is still a little obnoxiously old, but we're working on it. Work with what we got. Let me go ahead and log in here. Might take a second. Okay. So this is, I'm logging in on a fake one. The first thing that'll pop up if it's your first time ever logging in, you use your typical, like, my name is Erin Glazeman, so it's like ENG, like that usual login. General information, please make sure that the semester that you intend to graduate is correct. If you end up changing when you're graduating, I have changed when I graduated to make sure that reflects that. Mathematics, or however that's called, and then you'll grant the use of your submissions. Sometimes we use parts of a senior letter if you have an anonymous issue with a certain department or you want to call out like a really great professor. We can share that if you allow us to, so make sure you're pressing yes. Read through those, decide how you feel about it, and then something I'm going to stress quite often is when you're done, here at the bottom, I don't know if I can zoom in, please press ready to submit and then continue to work on the portfolio. If you close out of the window, it won't save any of it. That's an unfortunate part, so make sure you have reliable Wi-Fi. As you'll see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 prompts are the only ones that are required. See how it says not required? We do still get emails, but I'm telling you now, you don't have to do these. And then these ones down here, you can throw in here if you'd like. Maybe if you're in your capstone and you're required to add it, that will go there. And then this is unrelated to you guys as well, unless you have a second nature. So we're gonna go ahead and open all of these.
Erin, just wait a second.
Yes.
So it's these 2 prompts, critical thinking and the interdisciplinary thinking, that I want you guys over the course of the semester to put submissions for. And
yes.
As I said before, it doesn't matter if you're going to change it later on. You can just swap it out easily. Until you actually submit it, it's nothing set in stone, right?
Yes. So until you go all the way here to the bottom and press portfolio is complete, we won't get an email. We also don't approve them unless you're actively a senior, because it's unlikely that the prompts will change, like the actual little questions that you'll see in a second, but you'll still be linking the same artifacts. When you hear me say artifact, I just mean document. As a math major, maybe it's a paper. If you're a graphic design major, maybe it's a picture or something you've done. Artifact is kind of like a umbrella term for anything that you think is relevant. So we'll go ahead and at least we'll talk more in depth about those two, since those are the ones you're doing. For critical thinking, we'll read through this. You're trying to communicate meaning and integrates ideas through analysis, evaluation, and synthesis of ideas and concepts. A lot of the times you want this to be from your junior or senior year. If you guys are writing a research paper this semester, sounds like that's what you're going to put in there. Preferably not like an English 190 research paper. That's just probably not your best writing. And so if that is a Truman course, you'll be selecting which one indeed it is. Since we're here, we'll just make it a math class. Boom, and then you'll add which one it is. If you can't remember, don't press. Don't just put I don't know, like mathematics something, just so we know the gist. When you produce, these are kind of some bubbles to kind of get some background on why and what the course was. And then we come to these prompts. These are all over the portfolio project. It's terrible. You're going to describe the instructor's assignment as I told you before. Faculty from outside of your major might be reading this, and sometimes the papers are in different languages. We see that as well. And so offering some context on why you wrote it, what exactly it was for, helps offer some background as to why you might have included it to fulfill the critical thinking prompt. And then speaking subjectively, you're going to talk about how your critical thinking skills have grown since arriving at Truman. Think about classes that have challenged you, maybe changed how you write or anything along those lines. You do have to attach a document or an artifact for this particular prompt along with the next one we're going to speak about. That's just because it's pretty relevant that you have something tangible to speak on. You'll be seeing if it relates to any of these items. You do have to press yes or no. And then you'll be using these descriptors. How would you write it for the issue itself? This is also subjective. Don't be like, oh, it's totally a 3.5. Just put 3 or 4. You can always definitely round up if you want to. And this is not a grade you'll ever receive, if you will. It won't affect anything. It just needs to be done properly and consciously. Please don't spend an hour doing this. We'll probably send it back for you to fix it. Going through these for its context has to do with like looking at the issue from all sides, supporting evidence. Is this a well done research or critical thinking paper? Are we flipping around? Is there something to back it up? Are you looking at all sides of the issue? That sort of thing. And the conclusion that you come to. At this bottom here, you will attach any document to the document that is relevant to that. If you don't have, this many documents at the moment, you can always click this vault where you keep your artifacts, and you can go ahead and add them there. And once you're ready, I'm going to fix this so it goes back up there, but you'll press ready to submit and then save and return to main page or return home. So that's the first one. Does anyone have any questions about that one?
So Erin, I want to tell my class that for this class, don't do fill in the survey. You should save for that for when you're actually, doing your portfolio proper. So yes. That in your second last or last semester, I'm only interested in you attaching an artifact. You just got to look through for an artifact, find it, and attach it. That's the assignment of this class.
Yes, the prompts could change. That's why just attaching something is more than enough for now. The fact that you've already kind of thought about it is more than some people do, like the last week before classes end. So good on you. Just attach that document. Interdisciplinary thinking, still same thing. A lot of people use their GINS paper for interdisciplinary thinking because that's literally in the class's name is junior interdisciplinary, etc. And this has to do with putting together different disciplines. Same thing, strong as interdisciplinary thinking. Was it a course or another source? You do still have to attach a document. Asking again these kind of relevant questions as to when you originally produced it, how it relates to these international perspectives all the way down. Please answer all of the bubbles. accordingly. And then again, we ask you to describe the instructor's assignments. Throughout these little white boxes, these prompts, we need at least 2 strong and complete sentences. Sometimes that is a lot to ask, but if you want it to get approved the first time come next year, make sure to do that. And we do read them relatively thoroughly, so if it doesn't make sense, you might get it back. And then you're just listing all the disciplines whose concepts, methodologies, or modes of inquiry you believe you integrated. Again, you believe, this is relatively subjective. For example, I did an art and science of humor Gin's class over a particular summer. So I just wrote like art, psychology, science, something like that. It doesn't have to be too rigid. Just implement those as you believe you use them, and then reflect how this submission demonstrates interdisciplinary thinking. Again, read that, apply it subjectively, and then kind of why you decided to include it, offering some more context. And then again, looking at the descriptors, how would you rate your submission? Again, if you think you're like 2.5, maybe round up to a 3. I'm sure you did a good job. A lot of times people, when they're talking about the particular assignment, they'll just copy from the syllabus from what the assignment actually said. That works just fine. Again, if it's 2 strong sentences. And then you will attach a document. And then please remember to ready submit, save, and return to the main page. So those are the ones you're talking about. Personally satisfying has to do with something that fulfilled you during your time at Truman. Usually this is not a course for some people. It's sometimes an internship. It's whatever made you feel like a full person, if you will. Lots of people include like a club they were involved in, something like that. Professors realize that a lot of times a class is not the most important part of your life. It's usually for just a semester. So I remember reading someone actually adopted one of the Kirksville cats, and that's what he talked about as being personally satisfying for him. Really brought him a lot of joy, which I thought was interesting. This does kind of run into the next few prompts that we're talking about. They're kind of along the same vein, so just read into it. Personally satisfying, whatever makes your heart feel whole. You'll talk about how it was personally satisfying, what exactly it was, and why it was so meaningful. Again, you do not have to attach an artifact. Maybe it was your friends, and so you attach a picture. That's great too. Professors love that kind of stuff.
Erin, so those things that you showed down the bottom there, that list of artifacts, that's things that are in the vault, right?
In the vault, they only show up to the professors that are looking at them if you actually select them. So this is kind of an obnoxious amount. You'll probably only have like 4 or 5 if you're choosing between an assignment, but they probably were just showing them how it's done, which it's just like that. Make sure it's a document or a PDF, as long as it's not a Pages, which comes specifically from Max.
I always recommend a PDF.
Yes, please. It's actually a lot easier. So if you remember that, that'd be awesome.
And it's safer and all kinds of things like that. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, self-discovery and character development. This is usually an internship or research you did, just because it's changed, I guess, influenced on who you became, and made the biggest difference in developing who you are. Again, they kind of run into each other. Maybe we'll talk about like the same thing. I wrote about a certain class that I took just because it really changed how I thought about things. Again, pretty subjective. And again, in case you get scared that you're talking about the same stuff, specifically a note right here that says, that's okay. Obviously, Cliff Notes version of that. Lastly, you're talking about transformative experiences. This is probably the most annoying one. Do not close out of this window, otherwise you do have to redo the entire thing. This is the one people try and rush through, but really give it some thought. Your professors, especially those classes that you really, really enjoyed, those professors need to hear that you got a lot out of those classes. Can go into how departments are looked at and that sort of thing. So you'll be looking at your higher experience as a whole, and then what number of courses. If you say none at all, you got off easy, but I'm sure there's at least one. Please describe the course, maybe preferably include like what class it was, and then taught by, if you remember, if the professor was particularly a big part of why you thought it was transformative, and then like what you did. Because again, it's not necessarily someone in your major reading this. And then why it was transformational, or sorry, how it was transformational. And then you'll be looking at several other, do you have any experience with writing those transformational? And then looking at things, studying abroad, yes or no. Again, describing it, how it's transformational. Service learning, there's just several things. Undergraduate research, maybe that's something you've done. Internship, leadership, blah, 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 going down here. And then any other specific experience you would like to report as transformational. Please give us, again, the 2 sentences. We don't have many portfolios coming in right now, especially at the beginning of the year, so we're a little bit more sticklers. Obviously, you're not submitting it now, but the whole 2-sentence rule hasn't changed yet. So when you're done, ready to submit, don't forget that. Lastly, as a final submission, you will write a letter to Truman. If you haven't started this already, maybe add a document called Letter to Truman and kind of jot some stuff down, especially how you're feeling about COVID, maybe ideas. It can really include anything. This is kind of you pouring your heart out on the page. You'll always feel like you missed something, but it can include anything. You'll also include how many hours you spent working on the portfolio. Anywhere from 2 to 4 hours should be sufficient, 2 to 5, I would say. So 1 super long movie or 2 medium length movies. And then that does include an artifact as well. That letter to Truman, you can include anything you really want. Sure, shout out great professors, maybe something you saw with the department, like, why were there no internship opportunities? Why did I never know what I was doing? Or something like that. Or I had a great advisor. They're forwarded anonymously to the right people so they can see that. And then in general, things I recommend, I guess, not complaining about, just because we've heard it all before, is parking. I don't know that they're going to build like some kind of giant parking structure. It's really not a problem this year, which is great, but that's just something that I guess falls on deaf ears. If you want to say something, that's great. Also, I think we're going to keep Sodexo around for a while. So if you don't like the food, hopefully you're cooking for yourself now. That's just, you're talking about all you want, but unfortunately, unless you want to be the one cooking the food, we're probably going to keep it around. Save it for the really stuff you want to get off your chest. But again, Sodexo does fall under anything else you want to tell us, so I won't tell you what to do. Yes, and that is kind of the last hurrah you'll do. You'll save and return to main page, and then please, let's go down here. Please, when you're finally done, the portfolio is complete, and it should say hooray, and you'll either within a week or so get an email saying that it's approved, verified, if you will, or an email saying portfolio needs some changes, and you'll have to go in to fix that. Does anyone have any questions?
I have actually done portfolio. I've read portfolio, and I want to say that it's just as me reading the portfolio. It was a really great experience because I deal with you math majors all the time, and that was really the only time that I could see what other people in other disciplines were doing. So it was really interesting from that respect. I guess the main thing I want you to say is just to take it seriously, because the information, and this is how we kind of this is one of our main tools of self-assessment. And so, if a lot of people say a certain thing, then that's how, that gets heard, and, changes are made based upon what they hear. Every now and again, I read some really bitter portfolio, and that was kind of sad. It made me feel very unhappy. I know that happens. So, but the main thing if you criticize, try and be constructive criticism is kind of the main thing.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because it really does matter, and I mean, we're asking for your help. You get nothing out of it from doing the portfolio well, but if you do it well, that gives us good information, and it helps the school.
Yes, as seniors, when you guys are seniors, will have the most experience of anyone at Truman. So your kind of bird's eye view with like 1 foot out the door is definitely the most constructive. You have a lot of power that way. People do listen to you as you write and submit these. So yeah, I guess do with that what you will. So
Anyone got any questions for Erin or any? Well, you gave the email portfolio at Truman, so I know you guys used to have office hours, so I assume you're not having office hours anymore this semester.
yes, we should be adding some on Zooms soon, but I think I've had like 2 people come by, so emails definitely. You want it as fast as possible.
But it's probably going to be more relevant for you in the future when you actually get down to doing your portfolio, and by then hopefully some sort of normalcy will be so that there's plenty of ways to get help if you have problems with portfolio, if you can't something work. So for this class, I want you to get the vault to work and submitting thing to work. So if that's a problem, we'll sort it out and so you'll know how to do that in the future. But then other sort of like technical questions about, oh, do you think I should be doing this or that? The portfolio people are probably the best people to talk to and talk to them when you're actually at submission time is what I would say. Anything else, Erin?
Nope, nothing else to add. Just don't forget about it. So
Okay. Let's thank Erin for help for coming to talk to us. And that's great. Thanks a lot, Erin.
thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Okay. So hopefully you feel confident enough that later in the semester you're going to start going through your stuff and thinking about, well, what am I going to put as my sort of writing, best writing, like it's a disciplining thing, you might just try it, is what I'm saying. And then if you have questions about it, talk to me. If you have problems, talk to me. And I'm not a great expert, but like people who are experts. So is everyone kind of confident about when later on I ask you to do this, you'll be able to do it? And the other thing to notice is that Portfolio Vault actually is a resource for you. You can put, it's just a place, park, stuff that you did at Truman. So if you've got anything at all that you think that in a future time, you want to be able to show someone, or you're applying for a job and you think, I'm going to need evidence that I did blah. Keep it, put it there, and it'll be safe. You don't have to worry about your hard drive crashing. And in fact, you should already be doing stuff that you think is important. Put it there now so it will be safe. Okay? Okay, thanks guys. I'll see you next week when we'll have, we'll talk to someone from the Career Center about resumes. So have that in your mind. And I've got to figure out how to.